I spent a full 2 minutes drinking the blood from my arm before I finally stopped. My arm throbbed with burning inflammation, but at this point, I was unfazed by any sort of pain. 2 days within this relentless hell had changed me into something else, and I could barely grip any bit of sanity that may have remained within the darkest depths of my now broken mind. Paranoia had taken over every bit of whatever remained within those depths, and in every second that passed, I felt like I was being stalked within the enclosure by not just Fluttershy anymore, but something else. Something more powerful and deadly. I didn't bother wiping away the thick liquid that stained my entire mouth, seeing I could care less about my appearance anymore. I was in darkness, with only the hissing oxygen filter to keep my ears company. My mind seemed to be wandering in multiple directions at a rapid pace, as I returned to wandering inside the box, feeling as if I was slowly going insane. I held my head with my hands, angrily wandering throughout the enclosure with my blood-stained teeth gritted. I was angry, sad, but mostly lost. Here I was, an ungrateful asshole, wandering in what seemed like an endless darkness. If anything, I deserved every bit of this torture I was receiving from who or whatever had put me here in the first place. That's all I thought about as I continued to storm angrily throughout the box, intentionally hitting the glass walls as an additional punishment to what had gotten me stuck here in the first place. Arrogance, stupidity, betrayal, and just being a full-out piece of shit to the one I cared for. She hated me now, even though I saw her die before my eyes. She was here, haunting me, torturing me, pushing me to my limits until I would snap out of it all. The speed of my pacing increased with each hit, sometimes falling flat on my ass, then getting back up. My anger increased with every collision to the plexiglass walls of the box, eventually resulting in my legs speeding up to a rapid pace. Every hit was harder, but I didn't fucking care anymore. I had nothing to fight for except myself. My own pathetic fucking self. The asshole who had caused the death of a beautiful, innocent woman over betrayal, just to save his own fucking ass. I collided into the glass wall again, only this time I didn't get back up and run. This time, I remained still, staring at my faint reflection. The reflection had begun to warp into something else as I stood still, feeling a small stream of blood caress down my nose, dripping to the floor of the box. My only focus was the reflection, which had begun to manifest into some sort of shadow figure that resembled me. I was not running anymore, seeing that's only what this unknown shadow figure wanted. It was time to face what I had been running from ever since I had arrived here. Only in a state of insanity could I face what was hidden from me. The figure had blood-red eyes and a maw of a blind light and sharp teeth. The creature looked at me with an expression that most would fear, but at this point, I had realized that all along, I had been running from myself. I couldn't fear myself, nor could I run from myself any longer. This was my ultimate test, and I didn't care if I was dreaming or hallucinating at this point. In this darkness, I couldn't assure anything at all, because the things I had been seeing were my fears. Although they felt real and looked real, all along, they were just the result of my mind's own creation. Now that I had fallen to insanity, I could see things for what they really were. It was like I had managed to expand the limits of my mind, and now could see things in a whole different light. It was mesmerizing, yet terrifying at the same time. I'm not running from you anymore. I won't fear myself. I continued to stare at the manifestation of my own self, as it expressed a smile of pure terror. But fear did not even faze me anymore. I had finally found what had been hiding in plain sight, taunting me in my slow fall to pure insanity. You've been there since the day I beat that kid to the point of where he died. and I left him in the gutters. I should have called the police and taken the fall for my crime, but instead I ran and left him for dead, hoping the rats would decompose the body of that poor innocent kid. I paused, feeling my anger start to rise. It's one of my biggest regrets in my life, next to not attending my mother and father's funeral. I should have been there. I should have fucking been there! But instead, I was too focused on getting to third base. I am easily one of the most ungrateful assholes to ever exist in this world. And now I understand why I've been seeing these things that I have been seeing in this box. My anger was at its peak as I wiped away the tears from my eyes, ready to dissipate the monster before me in the glass reflection. They are manifestations of my fears and regrets, including Cheryl, Fluttershy, the pony I fear the most for what I experienced during the events of the survey. The monstrous creature with the fishes Cheryl, those are my regrets for what I did to her. I should have made the right decision, but instead I made Cheryl take the fall. It's all obvious now, and now that I've figured out why I've been seeing and hearing these things, I can see that there's no possible way for me to make it out of this as a victor. Even if I make it one more day. What do I have left to go back to in my life? What is left for me? Absolutely nothing, except to keep living with those fears and regrets. I'll continue on, while Cheryl should have been the one to make it, and not my ungrateful ass. There's nothing left for me in life. Therefore, what am I fighting for? You can continue to haunt me, torture me, and taunt me all you want, but in the end, you'll always be there, even in death. There's no escape, and that's just the harsh truth. I paused, feeling the tears roll down my cheeks. Nothing was stopping me anymore. This was the climax of whatever reason I had been spared and brought into this relentless hell. I had come to realization that the environment I was in really was just a glass box, and that the things I had seen, felt, and heard were all smoke and mirrors. Fear had created these things, and now it was time to destroy them. I created you, and everything I have seen, felt, or heard in this hell. And now that I see the truth of what will happen no matter the outcome of this demented test, I see there's no reason to continue this any further. You lose! With no further hesitation, I violently slammed my good fist down on the oxygen filter at a rapid pace, not holding back any more force. The hissing of the oxygen had begun to dissipate very quickly, as I begun to let out a laughter of neither happiness or sadness, only of pure insanity, as I continued to violently pound against the oxygen filter. I did not care anymore. If I'm going down my way, you motherfuckers! After making sure the oxygen filter was completely unable to produce any oxygen any further, I turned back to the glass, only to see the reflection of myself now gone. I pounded against the glass, taunting at whatever may be behind the glass. Come and get me! I'm all yours now! I'm all yours! I'm all yours! I watched as the bloody hoof from before once again caressed the outside of the glass. I just continued to laugh maniacally as I continued to taunt and pound against the glass, hearing an alarm ring from outside of the box. In the midst of the pure madness and the alarm, I could hear the sound of Fluttershy's voice faintly within the darkness.
This isn't the way.
The voice of Fluttershy spoke. Shut the fuck up, you bitch! The voice quickly dissipated as I continued to laugh over the sound of the alarm and proceeded to collide into the floor. I could feel the lack of oxygen starting to take effect, as I continued to laugh and let out coughs from that lack of oxygen. In my final moments in the box, all I saw was the manifestations of what I once feared standing side by side, along with the normal Cheryl. Cheryl stared at me with tears in her eyes, as my vision faded to nothing but a blur of darkness and a faint light. I had no regrets in my choice. I had lost my sanity, my fears, and my regrets. All was over. My eyes shot open, only to be greeted by a blinding light just above me. I was seated on what seemed like a hospital bed in a long, vacant hallway, and strangely, I wasn't restrained by any straps or anything like that. I proceeded to getting off of the bed and placing my feet on the cold hallway floor. I didn't understand why, once again, I had been spared. Didn't these bastards want me dead? I had no idea where to go, what to do, or why I was here in the first place. I didn't understand, as I carefully proceeded down the hall to wherever I was going next. I wasn't sure yet on the reason why I had been spared, but somewhere among the dark atmosphere of this mysterious place, I had a feeling that I'd find something. I just wasn't sure what. Yet. Hallways. Endless hallways with countless locked rooms was all I could make out of this new hell. It seemed like I was walking in an endless maze of long halls and doors, as I continued onward, unaware of what I was even looking for in this place. There was no sound in the eerie silence of the halls, except for the echoing of my footsteps and my shallow breathing, not wanting to attract any attention, if any existed, beyond the numerous doors I passed. The eerie silence was suddenly interrupted with the sound of an intercom, following an all-too-familiar voice that made my blood boil at the sound of it.
"Awake already, I see."
The cold voice made my anger rise, wondering if this was even real or just some demented nightmare. Here I was, wandering down the endless halls, unknowing of where I was even supposed to go from here. What was I searching for in this new place? Was I just being played with like a chess piece on a game board, or was I just falling even further into insanity? One thing was sure. I was tired of being watched and taunted by who or whatever was behind that intercom. They had put me here, had caused me to break to the point of where I confessed everything, and even pushed me to dying in the box. Yet here I was, alive and well. Why didn't you just let me die? Isn't that what you've wanted from the start?
Foolish human, did you really believe that you'd escape that easily? You still have yet to learn why you are really here, and only when you realize the truth of why you've been spared once more will you be set free from this place.
I was surprised, not expecting the voice to respond with an answer like that. What did this unknown person or creature mean by that I still had yet to learn why I was really here? I was here for a reason? If so, then what was that reason? I don't understand! I thought I was here for passing the survey! What the fuck is going on?
Allow me to shed some light on the situation. Walk down the hall, and you'll come to a stop, with only two choices, left or right. Take the right hall, and walk to the end of that hall. You'll come to a double-door entrance to where you'll find your answers.
I wasn't sure whether or not to believe the voice that had stuck me here in the first place. But at the same time, I didn't have any better ideas on where to go in this endless maze of halls. I had a choice. Believe my worst enemy, or continue to wander for eternity throughout this maze with no guidance of any sort of clue of what I was searching for in the first place. How do I know you aren't just leading me into some sort of trap?
Have I lied to you yet? Think about it. I haven't lied to you about one thing. Everything in the box was a hallucination and a safe haven, just like I said on the day of your importation. I even alerted you that you wouldn't survive the 4 days without taking bold measures, drinking your own blood. I have been nothing but a guide to you, my friend, never once an enemy. Another thing that you must remember is that I didn't kill Cheryl. You did, with your desperation and selfishness to escape the survey. You've just blamed me because you are blinded by your anger and refuse to blame yourself for yet another ungrateful act.
Reality hit me like a ton of bricks. The voice was correct. They had never once lied to me about anything, and had been honest since the day I had arrived here. Had I been blinded so much by my anger that I had begun to blame others than myself? It had become clear to me. My jaw dropped, knowing that my greatest enemy all along had been my greatest ally in this unknown place. I collapsed to my knees, feeling like a total asshole, which I clearly was. I had not changed since the day I arrived here. I was still the same asshole, blinded by my own hate.
I see that you finally caught on to the truth, my friend. All along, you've been blinded by anger and hate. As a result, you've pushed others away and have blamed others for your faults. Do you truly believe that I'm lying to you now?
I was unable to talk. As I slowly rose back up to my feet, I remembered the directions given to me by the unknown voice. I understand now. It's time to find out why I'm really here, and the answers behind where I am. With no further word, I proceeded down the hall, just as the voice had instructed, until I came to a dead end and had to choose left or right. Just as the voice had instructed, I took the right hall and quickly made my way to the end of the hall, until, just like the voice said, a pair of double doors were before me. I inhaled a deep breath as I cautiously made my way through the entrance into the room where I'd find my answers. The room was large and open, much like the box, only much more different. It was dark inside, so I browsed the wall, hoping to find some sort of switch. It didn't take long before I found one, and quickly illuminated the room with a large number of lights connected to the rafters high above my head. Once my sight was clear, I was shocked at the contents within the room, causing my jaw to drop once more. Among the walls was a plethora of monitors, currently switched off, along with 6 stage setups with green screens as the background of each. A camera was positioned in front of each, currently on standby mode, and hooked up to some sort of device that connected to 6 separate laptops, aligned on a single table. Lastly, in the far corner of the room, a number of familiar props I had seen before were stacked. Mechanical props of Fluttershy's animals, along with lingerie, ropes, mattresses, and many other props seen in the show My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. It took me a minute to connect the dots, but it wasn't long before I came to realization of what this place really was. It was the room where the survey Skype calls are called and projected from. 6 stages, 6 laptops, 6 ponies. Without a doubt, this was it. This was the place where it all took place. The demented survey projection room. I wanted to scream and destroy everything, but I just felt that this was not the only obvious answer that the voice was referring to. Something else was here, and I had to find it. So, this is it. This is where it all happens. The demented Skype calls, the survey, and the murders.
Looks like you are smarter than I thought. However, how do you suppose those who run the survey know the contact of the unfortunate victims? It can't just be by luck or random guesses.
I thought hard about what the voice told me, still unsure of what they meant. It was true. Just how did whoever run the survey get Skype contacts? Could it be some imported code into the survey itself, able to import a Skype contact into a draft whenever the survey link is clicked? Or was it something less complicated? I decided to search around for anything specific that may relate to the situation. I carefully navigated the area, keeping a sharp eye out for anything specific, and didn't find anything until I came to the area of the laptops. In a small drawer below the laptops was what looked like some sort of notebook with a large number of pages. This piqued my interest, so I grabbed one and quickly opened it, only to find what seemed like a well-organized log of Skype contacts. The strange thing about the contacts was a red X next to most of the names, which I quickly figured out was the victims who had been killed already. I fluttered through the pages, not seeing anything different except the massive numbers of Skype contacts with the red X next to those who had already met their fates. I was about to give up until I came to the very last page of the log and found something familiar. My Skype contact. However, the last Skype contact was not mine. It was Cheryl's. No red X was placed next to it. It hit me almost instantly as I dropped the book from the impact. Cheryl was not dead. What? Cheryl isn't dead?
Correct.
But how? I saw her die before my own eyes.
As you've seen, your eyes can deceive you, my friend. Not everything you see is necessarily real.
I don't understand. If Cheryl isn't dead, then where is she?
She's closer than you think. But if you wish to find her again, you'll have to watch the moment you regret the most again. The camera in front of the second stage is paused just before that moment. Watch it again, and you'll be able to find her.
I shuddered at the statement of watching Cheryl's punishment in the survey again. Could I? It was something that I regretted severely. Something I never wished to see again. But the voice had not lied once about anything. And if this was the only way to find Cheryl and save her from this place, I had to put aside one of my greatest fears. To save someone that I cared for dearly. Alright. I'll do it, I stated with my bravest voice as I made my way to the camera and prepared for the worst, pushing the play button on the side of the camera. The footage started out with the sight I had seen over the Skype call, where Fluttershy was staring blankly into the camera, holding a paper in her hooves. The questions that she asked me.
Final question. Did you take this survey by your own choice?
Asked Fluttershy through the webcam. There was a long pause before I answered over the Skype call. The one answer I regretted the most. No, it wasn't me. It was my stuck-up bitch of a girlfriend. She put me up to this bullshit, so if you're going to punish anybody for anything, choose her, not me. Her! I lip-synced the entire answer that I gave, feeling tears build up in my eyes. How could I have given such a fucking ungrateful answer? Cheryl was the kindest person you could know, and was far from a stuck-up bitch that I so selfishly called her. I wanted to hit myself so hard that I bled profusely right there. But the worst was yet to come.
Is that really how you feel?
Questioned Fluttershy. Yes, I selfishly replied.
As you wish.
Fluttershy replied before the beginning of Cheryl's torture began. She was already tied up in the green screen projection of what I thought was originally Fluttershy's cottage, struggling to get free from the restraints. Next came the torture, as Fluttershy proceeded to violently smacking Cheryl across the face, managing to fracture her teeth and causing her gums to bleed madly. Cheryl cried from the hits, but it only grew worse as Fluttershy resorted to punching her across the face. Hard. Cheryl couldn't scream due to the tape across her mouth preventing so, but she continued to cry and struggle from the torture. I wanted to stop right there, but it wasn't over yet, as Fluttershy resorted to her next method of torture. But not to Cheryl this time, but to me. Fluttershy pointed directly at the screen as she ripped the tape from Cheryl's mouth. She was crying and begging for mercy. Fluttershy's response to her pleas was only cruel and made a chill run down my spine.
It's not me who brought this torture upon you, dear, but only the ones you care the most about. I only do what he tells me to do, and he wanted you to be tortured, just so he could get away with lying over the truth.
Fluttershy answered in the most cruel voice that she could muster. No, Cheryl, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh my, what a liar you are. First you said you wanted her to be tortured because she's the one who got you into this mess. Looks like you've been caught in a dead lie. But despite your actions now, you already told me what you want. So, I have no choice but to do what you say.
Please, don't do this, please!
Too late.
With those two cold words, Fluttershy proceeded to killing Cheryl.
Oh, Harry! Would you mind doing the honors? You've been needing a boost in protein lately, and I believe one human is enough to ease your hunger.
The last of Cheryl's screams were silenced as Harry engulfed her, finishing her off. Strangely, I didn't remember much after that. Suddenly, it hit me. I didn't remember anything after that. Had I? The video answered my question as it continued onward.
Oh dear, my victim's become unresponsive.
Fluttershy spoke.
Are you sure?
Spoke another unknown voice from within the room. Fluttershy nodded her head.
Not to worry. His contact has been logged. And as we all know, once the survey has started, it is inescapable until it's complete.
So, now what?
Your job is complete. Until the next victim, that is. As for this one, we'll put him through the box test, where he will continue to take the survey in his mind, and shall remain in a coma until the quest is complete. His girlfriend will be put into the same state as well, and depending on how he copes in his mind, will decide the fate of them both. Only one will survive the ordeal. Put the subject in room B52 for a period of 4 days. As for the victim himself, his test begins now. Start the mind test protocol and put it on a 4-day time schedule. Now!
I was speechless as the video came to an end. All along, this wasn't even in reality. I was in a coma. In reality. And this whole thing was occurring in my mind. I had passed out and was still taking the survey, just in my mind. This newfound information was almost too much to take in, but it was obvious now. This was still a test, and the only way to pass was to save Cheryl from wherever she was hidden in this place. That's when I remembered that the location was given away in the video. She was in room B52, and was alive. But I feared that she would not be for much longer.
Now you understand. why you are here and where exactly you are. You were brought here for a reason, and you figured it out. Cheryl is alive, but once the 4th day is complete, both you and Cheryl will die in your comas. Despite all that has happened and what you have learned, even if you manage to save her, only one can survive. It's time for you to choose, my friend. Would you rather live and go on with your life, or are you willing to spare the one you love and save her from a terrible fate caused by you?
The voice was very blunt, which meant that this was it. This was my final choice. It was clear what I wanted, and the only way I could escape the images that now plagued my mind. I had to do the right thing, even if it did cost me my life. I deserved it for what I did out of my own choice. I've done ungrateful things, and have no reasons to go back, while Cheryl has a full life ahead of her. I've treated my friends and family as if they were garbage my whole life, and even taking the life of an innocent person. This time, I will not choose wrong. This time, I will do the right thing. My choice was clear, as I heard the voice speak again.
Best find her before it's too late. You slept for almost 2 days and have 13 minutes before the test ends.
I didn't say anything, and quickly resorted to rushing out of the room, noticing that the rooms were now labeled with numbers, and knew I had a long way to go, due to the nearest room being labeled D1. I had a long way to go, and hoped that I would make it before I lost Cheryl again. I immediately shook my head of any sort of negative thoughts. No more doubt. I will save her. I will not fail again. With no further hesitation, I quickly scurried down the hall, my target being room B52.